what is your name and where are you from?
So my name's Samara and I'm from India.
And how long have you been at Brockwood?
This is my third year.
And although it was a while ago, how long did you feel it took you to settle in the school?
You mean when I first arrived?
When you first arrived, yeah.
It's an interesting question. When I first arrived, I think for most people it's quite an organic process of integration. Practically as a new student there are certain things in place to help you land and settle. And in the year that I arrived there was quite a few sort of new students around my age, and that helped because it was clear that there were other people who were maybe experiencing sort of similar tribulations or whatever. And I don't know, it's just it's a very organic process of settling in. Because it's such a small school, you get to know people quite quickly, and you spend so much time in the same environment, and it's a very intimate form of getting to know someone, and so that sort of just happens as it would naturally. And yeah, in terms of getting settled, because it's quite a different environment to the one that I'd come from, there were sort of layers of settling in, right? There was a sense, like having a sense of the place, practically settling in, finding my way around, and then settling into myself here, which I think probably took a bit longer. Within relationships, within my relationship with learning and education, I think that was sort of a more drawn out process, and I sort of feel like it's been a process of settling in many ways. And within that settling, because you're constantly questioning and being challenged, so there I don't know, you feel settled in it, but
Because also with your education, like your educational journey or what you've been doing here in your courses, that's also changed every year for you, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
So what are you kind of, can you say something about what your educational journey has been here for you?
Right, so when I arrived when I was 13, and so naturally I was encouraged to do different courses from a sort of wider scope of subject areas. So I did maths, science, the humanities, art, and English. And it was quite interesting. It was quite a sort of, at the time it felt to me like a preliminary sort of introduction to maybe what these things are about. And in retrospect I realized that a lot of it was quite grounding and necessary in like reevaluating things that I took for granted in terms of being truthful and just as things are.
Because of course in many ways I suppose there's a sense of being maybe responsible for your own learning at Brockwood, and of course would you say that that's something that you have experienced while you've been here at the school?
Completely. And I think in terms of settling, that's probably one of the things that took me the longest time to understand in some way. Because, there's a sort of, when the pressure diffuses and you no longer feel like, you're obligated to perform in a particular way. I think there's for me, very naturally, the tendency was to relax completely and not really push myself or hold myself to something, which was interesting. And then from that space of not feeling in any way compelled, I think something arose, and that was quite this actual sort of interest in looking and seeing, what's here for me to explore. And in that, there's only so much that other people can facilitate, and so naturally it's a process that, I mean, you sort of completely have to take responsibility for. And of course, there's support and you're facilitated in that, but yeah, it's definitely been really interesting to see how I've come into seeing that it's, yeah, that I'm the one sort of, you know, taking responsibility.
And would you say also that, because of course we ask students to take a lot of responsibility within the school, so would you say that you feel that there is an opportunity for your voice also to be heard in the wider school?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think it's another thing that sort of dawns on you the more time that you spend here, how much of an impact you have on the atmosphere and the sort of like place. And it's really incredible. It's quite a felt thing. And so, yeah, I completely feel like by taking responsibility, I'm able to sort of contribute and work together on sort of creating the environment in which I want to live and learn and sort of be. And yeah, that's been really interesting. I mean, practically we have sort of forums like core group, where students are able to sort of, you know, sit together and talk about, look, like what do we want, what's not working, what is working, sort of process of evaluation. But I think that just feeds into this sort of wider general sense of I feel completely like I can sit down with adult students, whoever it is, and look at a problem together, you know, and take responsibility in that sense.
And so then another kind of question related to that is, how do you feel about the relationships that exist here in the school? And that, again, that sense of community that exists within Brockwood?
Well, I mean, I think it's the first thing that really hits you, this sense of community and atmosphere. And it's quite ineffable. It's sort of difficult to pin down exactly what it is, but I don't know, there's definitely a sense of togetherness and, you know, I think an understanding that hyper focus on my individual needs at any given point isn't necessarily, you know, it's quite limited, and living with so many other people and having to, you know, make compromises and contribute, like it sort of just teaches you that quite naturally, and yeah, I mean, yeah, that's been really interesting to observe. And in terms of the relationships here, because you spend so much time with these people and it's such a sort of intimate setting, you know, the sort of relationships that emerge and flourish are quite deep connections, I think, and quite honest relationships in a lot of ways.
And that exists between staff and students, or students and students?
Completely, everybody.
Yeah. And do you feel that you've developed a kind of independent thinking, a sense of, we've kind of discussed it a little bit before, but that sense of, the atmosphere in the school, how would you say that it's impacted on you as a student?
Well, in terms of independent thinking, I think coming here has been really interesting in examining some of the limitations in my own thought and sort of what that means in terms of the way that I live in this world. And so it's been really interesting to sort of see these things and see that, you know, they have their place. And yeah, I mean, there's quite an active process of questioning if we have inquiry time where we sort of meet once a week to look at some things with a bit more care than general, and just conversations and dialogues that we have, you know, with one another, really, you know, are invitations, I think, for us to examine some of these things. Like I was saying, some of the things that we take for as being, you know, true, reevaluating and seeing, you know, what's implied in that, what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I definitely think that there's a certain independent thinking, yeah.
That has come about as a result of being at Brockwood.
Yeah,
do you think?
completely, yeah.
Okay.